Alright, something that we're going to talk about today that is very, very important for the beginning of this video is vitamins. The reason why I say vitamins is because it's so important for this animal or for any reptile that you get is because it's very slept on, and something that a leopard gecko is very, very common, which is like a very common disease that a lot of them get, is metabolic bone disease. And if you don't know what metabolic bone disease is this right here, which is deformity of basically. It's like a lack of nutrients, a lack of calcium, lack of supplements in the reptile's bones, which causes it to twist and just the bones to deform. And this is a deformity that is not reversible. So once your leopard gecko or any reptile you get gets metabolic bone disease, they're gonna have it for the rest of their life. It's just a sad thing. So first thing I want to touch up on, very important. First thing I want to talk about is calcium. Calcium is a very, very important supplement to a leopard gecko. This is what's going to give the leopard gecko strength. It's going to make sure that it doesn't get metabolic bone disease. This is something that you're always going to want to provide with every meal, with every food that the leopard gecko eats, right? So basically, like mealworms, waxworms, crickets, all them insects that you're going to feed your leopard gecko, always does them. Do not miss a dozen. And one that I really recommend is calcium by Repcal. Has no D3. Now here I have my male leopard gecko sleeping. As you can tell, you can see his tail. This is the way you can tell if your leopard gecko is healthy or not, right? You never want to see your leopard gecko's tail too fat, or you never want to see this tail very, very thin. You can see that my leopard gecko, his tail is right there in the middle. He's not overweight or underweight. He's good. You know, that's something you want to keep in consideration. It's tail size. That's a very main factor where they store all their nutrients, and that's where everything goes, you know. That's how you can tell if your leopard gecko is healthy or not, you know. Basically, what I mean by D3, if you don't know what D3 is a supplement basically which animals get from UVB exposure. So like it allows the calcium from their body with the UV turn into D3 supplements in their diet. So I stress about this a lot because a lot of people sleep on it, and it's very, very important to stay on top of your supplements, right? Now, when I say that you get calcium without D3, doesn't mean you're not gonna want to supply your leopard gecko without D3. What I mean is by a leopard gecko is actually a nocturnal animal, so it's not gonna be out during the day absorbing all this D3. At night, there's no UVB exposure because the sun is not out, you know. So these animals, not saying that they don't need it, they just don't need it as much, you know. So with the leopard gecko, what I do is I give it from Monday to Friday regular calcium, right? Saturday and Sunday, I make sure that I give them their multivitamin. And now this is where it comes in, where they do get their D3. As you can see, this Reptivite has a bunch of vitamins, which is also included with D3, right? So this is where they get their vitamins from. So make sure you stay on top of that, because you don't want to have your reptile going through metabolic bone disease, because it is an irreversible disease, which means that once your leopard gecko gets metabolic bone disease, your lizard is gonna stay with that deformity for the rest of his life. So yeah. Now the next thing I want to talk about that's very important is heating. The reason why I say heating is a very important thing is because a lot of people will get this reptile, get a kit, and see that the kit shows a leopard gecko. Like for example, this one right here shows a leopard gecko, and it shows that it brings a basking. Like these animals right here on that animal's a basking. Remember, like I said, they're nocturnal animals. There's nothing to bask for. In reality, these animals actually look for belly heat. So what I recommend to get is a heat mat. A heat mat that I really recommend is the Zoomed, which is the one I use. This is the heat mat I use right here. This is a picture of it. So if you want, you could get it. It's like 20 bucks. I think it should be like 20 something bucks, right? That heat pad. Depends the size you're getting. And something else that you should get is a thermometer, right? For example, this is the thermometer I'm talking about. This thermometer right here, well, what you do is just plug your heat mat to it, and it comes with a thermometer. It comes with a little probe, and what you do, you put that probe where your heat mat is at, and once it reaches the level that you desire or what the animal is desired for, it will automatically turn off and turn back on when that temperature lowers. right? You don't want to keep your heat mat without a thermometer or something to control the heat, because this will cause the animal to, you never know if something happens with your heat mat, causes it to overheat, burning the reptile, and your reptile will basically get burnt. This is a picture of an animal that got burnt with a heat mat because it wasn't regulated, you know? So that's something you want to keep in hand. Now, something I'm going to talk about is now enclosure wise. Things that you're going to want to have in the enclosure. First thing I'm going to talk about is substrate. Okay, many people will keep theirs on eco earth. Some people want to put bark. Some people want to, so basically they sell things like Repti carpet, which is things that I recommend. And another thing that you can use is also paper towel, which I keep my reptiles in. Okay, many people will say, oh, why don't you keep your leopard gecko on substrate like eco earth or things like that? The reason why I don't keep my animals like that is the easiest thing. It's much easier for me, right? There's nothing more easier than just going into your reptiles enclosure and just switching the paper towel out, you know? At the end of the day, I prefer using paper towels. At the end of the day, it's your decision. But something that you want to prevent things that are very chunky or big, or things that the reptile cannot digest. Because say you put crickets in there, say you're putting mealworms in there, right? In this dish, right? Sometimes, say when you put crickets in there, right? A leopard gecko is not the best at aiming. It doesn't have the best striking, so it might miss, it might bite the wrong thing. Say you have Repti bark in there, right? Now, when the lizard goes to bite the cricket or go attack the cricket, it's gonna, if it misses, it'll take a bite of the Repti bark. What this could happen is something called impaction. The lizard will become impact from digesting that big piece of bark because it won't be able to go through its digestive system, which this could cause your lizard to die. Now, that's why I don't keep mine with any substrate, because the risk of it getting impacted, you never know. Too much of everything can be bad, you know? So what I usually do is keep them on paper towel. You know, easy to throw out. All I have to do, anywhere they poop, take it out. Oh, that's another thing. A leopard gecko is not like a bearded dragon that is gonna go poop anywhere, you know? A leopard gecko is gonna pick a corner in its tank and it's gonna poop in that corner for the rest of his life. So once it picks that corner, that's the corner he's gonna use, you know? Another thing is hides. Hides are very important, right? These are animals that are always hiding, you know? They don't want to be exposed to people. They're very skittish, you know? Sometimes, you know, it takes a while for them to get used to people, you know? So it's always good to provide more than one hide, you know? I always provide like 3 hides. I always provide cool hide, a humid hide, and a hot hide, you know? So whenever a reptile is about to shed, it usually looks for some type of humidity, some type of moisture, right? So that's why you want to keep a humidity hide, right? So if you could allow it to shed correctly, make sure it doesn't have no stuff shed or any of that, right? Something else, now a cool hide is after, like, say it's in his hot hide, right? It gets too hot in there or he wants to cool down, he'll get out there and go to his cool hide, you know? So those are the type of hides that I keep in my enclosures, right? Alright, now that's very important. Something that second to last, that thing I'm gonna talk about is enclosure size, right? So a leopard gecko is not a very big animal, right? So it's not gonna grow very huge, but you want to give it enough space. So for when you get your first leopard gecko as a baby, for like its first year, you're gonna want to keep it, like I say, a 10-gallon tank because it's small still, you know? After it starts getting bigger, you're gonna want to move that leopard gecko for it could be comfortable. I say a 20-gallon long, you know? But there's people out there that keep them in tubs. There's people that keep them in 10-gallon tanks their whole life and they do perfectly fine, you know? But in my opinion, bigger is always better, you know? Always give your animal enough space, enough, you know? Always. Bigger is always better. That's what I say, you know? Pause. You know? But, yeah. That's enclosure size. Okay, here I have 2 leopard geckos, right? Now, what I'm going to talk about right now is sex, right? So, how can you tell male from female, right? So first, let me show you the the things that you can tell if your leopard gecko is a male. Now, to tell that if your leopard gecko is a male or female, well, you want to look, well, you will tend to look at these traits when they get a little bit older. It's really hard to tell when they're like babies, right? But when they start getting older, if you look under Sleepy, right, you could see those two bulges, right? But if you're wondering, those are not its testicles, right? That's basically its hemipenis, you know? Because these animals right here actually have two penises. Pause. But yeah, they have hemipenises. And something else right now, in a female leopard gecko, if you look under its tail, right? If you look under, right, you won't see the bulge or the pores to release the scent that the males release, right? So you don't see the two bulges of the hemipenis. You don't see nothing at all. You just see like one main bulge probably, or the bulge won't be as separated, because they'll have a bulge too, but they won't be so separated as the male, you know? So yeah, that's how can you tell male from female. So that was it, guys. So basically that's the tutorial. Like, that's all the info you should know and everything you should know on keeping leopard geckos. And yeah, and if you want more videos like this, just let me know. Comment down below on what animal you want me to do a care guide on. Any the animals I have. If you go back to previous videos, you see the animals I got. If you want to see the videos on how to care, how to take care, how to set them up, and how to take care of them. So yeah, that's it, guys, and I'll see you next time.